and I'm glad to see a lot of senior citizens here. I'm in that category there. First of all, I had many conversations with Gene on the cell phone, and we all have heard the phrase "band of brothers," and I told her that that phrase doesn't really apply. We're not brothers. Y'all are sort of a band of angels. And then I thought about that, and after I heard about all the family participation, I decided that it's not a band of angels, but a clan of angels, because a clan is bigger than a band. So I figured, well, that's what I would kind of stay with. I wrote a sort of a outline, sort of to follow, so that I don't lose track. Russ accused me many times of not being conditioned as he was in Aikido. He said that I had a condition of verbal diarrhea. So I'm going to kind of keep it short and simple, because this is what he requested of me. So I'm going to begin with thanking the Flagell family for extending Russ's life, and the people that participated in his struggle there. I would also like to thank the Cientes of Canada that came down from Canada for the funeral. It was quite a trip for them. I moved to Texas in 1970, and when I did, I was called a Yankee. And Texans, have this expression they used to call Easterners, and I'm sure this probably applies to any other state other than Texas. And anyone coming from one state to another, they would call me a Yankee, and then they would call me a damn Yankee. And I asked some of my Texas friends, I said, well, what's the difference between a Yankee and a damn Yankee? And he said, well, a Yankee comes down to Texas to visit. A damn Yankee is one that doesn't have enough sense to go back home. And as a matter of fact, we have a living testimony here of Ed Pritkowski. He's a New Yorker who just recently moved to Texas, and if he stays, they might make him sheriff or maybe even marshal. But I do have a feeling that since Texas is a growing state, that he will stay. There's lots of opportunity there. When Russ graduated from law school, he gave me a card. It looked about like the size of a credit card, which I carried with me, and I still have it. I run across it every now and then when I'm rummaging through my stuff, or should I say shit. But the statement on that card said that if you can't dazzle them with brilliance, then baffle them with bullshit. And he was good at both. And he did both. He visited me. Visited me many times in Texas, because Texas was close to Mexico. if you catch my drift. There. I mean, there were times when Russ would come down and Brian, my son, would come up to see us. To see Russ. And, he would just pull in the driveway, and he'd open the door and just smoke. It was a while before I allowed him to smoke in the house. But after, he wouldn't stay in Texas more than a week because Texas was sort of his getaway from the big city. But then he yearned, for the noise, the lights, the friends that he had back here. So New York State called him back. But he, like I said, he would visit me at least twice a year there in Texas. On my land, I have a stock pond for cattle and stuff. Water, runoff water. In Texas, we call them stock ponds. And in the evening, he would always watch the sunset. And I would stop doing whatever I was doing and go and stand by him, with him. And at one point, I asked him, I said, Russ, why are you always watching, the sunset? And he would turn to me and said, didn't you ever see the movie Quigley Down Under with Tom Selleck? He says, that's what the Aborigines used to do in order to get their energy, the vitamin D for the next day, is watch the sunset.
Seriously.
And this is what we regularly did, and to this day, I still do that. There is I have a saying that is on my refrigerator that no one is ever gone if there is someone left to remember you. And in my way, by watching the sunset over the horizon is my way of remembering my brother. Thank you.
Movie though. He told me about that.
Really?
Didn't he tell me about the whole sunset thing? Oh. I didn't know he got it from a Tom Selleck movie.
Does it make you feel happy or sad?
I don't know. Both?
Wow, there's more people here than I thought.
Surprise!
Way to bring it home. Props.
And I have the challenge or the pleasure to follow every one of these.
It's a pleasure.
It's actually interesting is the fact that none of us really spoke about what we were going to say or what we were going to share and how so many things really tie into one another. We just kind of jump into it. I'm suddenly saddened by death of a good person. It's from the sadness that the feeling and gratitude emerges. I feel honored to have known them and blessed that their passing serves as a reminder to me that the time of on this beautiful earth is limited and that it should seize the opportunity that I have to forgive, share, explore, and love. I can think of no greater way to honor the deceased than to live this way. Russ has never been one to be the center of attention. Some of us would probably rebuttal that. But he was also not the lone wolf. What he really wanted was just to be part of the group. What he was, to me, it's very funny that it even got brought up. He was my Yankee uncle who argued the opposite side just for the conversation. A Oh, was it bad sometimes. Now, being an attorney, he was very good at it. But he sat at our dinner table in Texas, and he learned very quickly that his rules didn't exactly apply in our house. One fond memory was that his brother Andre, or my father who just spoke, and his two sisters, Mary and Irene, were arguing about something that made absolute zero sense. He spouts off about the government and their legal stance, and it's like, boom. Like the starting gun of a racetrack or the sound of the gate swinging open of a horse race. The Cienti family siblings were instantly putting on their armor, drawing their swords, and the fireworks started. I leaned over very, very quiet and said, Russ, why would you say that? He looked and just couldn't control himself. And he grinned and he said, with that classic smile, diamond in his tooth, and said, exactly. Just watch them go. Who was Russ Cienti? We can all sit back and we can all come up with our stories. I mean, you've heard many of them. Reached out to a good friend of mine, and as I was writing some things, and I said, I need you to read this. Grammatically, I want you to read this. And I was raised in Texas. Most people think we talk slow and that means we're stupid. But he kind of laughed and said, your words are your words, and they're very powerful. This is a man that met him one time in Cabo. And he said, I don't really remember him. I mean, he says, I remember him, but I didn't really know him. He goes, but I didn't have to. He said, just his personality and the way he made everybody feel said exactly who this man was. Russ and I were talking via one day on Skype when he was in some of his last couple months. And as I spoke to him, it was never about him. He always asked the question, how are you doing? Everybody's had it. He always wanted to know how you were doing. How could he make your life a little bit better? How could he turn a conversation into joy back to you and away from himself? I asked him one time, I said, Russ, I don't know how to do this, because if we know how to handle this, we're a pretty messed up individual. If you're used to this, you're in a worse shape than I could ever imagine. And he laughed and he quickly said, life is short. There are no replays or rewinds. Life is fast, so enjoy every minute as it comes. Stories of the driving school of Russ. He didn't teach me how to drive, thank goodness. But I did take him out in the middle of our field in our old farm truck. Took the right. And we were in grass. And I parked it, and we got out, and we were talking. I was telling him, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to clear all this land. We're going to open it up to this big pool, and it's going to be great. And he said, okay. And I said, I'm going to walk through there, get in that truck, and meet me back around. He said, sure, not a problem. I start off on foot, and I hear the clatter. This truck just hitting things. Can't see him. That's how thick it is. And literally, I finally see him emerge, and I think he's going to see the light, and he takes a left turn and goes right back through it. These trees that he was driving through is not the nicest trees. They've got very, very long thorns on them, about 3 inches. And I finally got around, I stopped, I said, what are you doing? He's like, oh, don't tell your dad. I'm like, don't tell my dad, you're driving over trees. I mean, mirrors are bent in, and things are hanging off the truck, and we get up the next morning, and that truck is sitting on all 4 flats, and he goes, you think he'll notice? I was like, oh, this is going to be bad. To the time that the story that Andy tells about drag queens. Been to the city a couple times with him, and he wanted to show me a great time. We went to McSorley's. He says, hey, I know this great place where there's the most beautiful women. He said, and I was like, really? That's awesome. That's great. He said, yeah. And I said, do you know for sure? He says, no. He goes, but it was when I was a kid. This was only about 4 years ago. We walk into Lucky Chains. And your reaction just said it all. Thank you. We walk in and there was more beards than what I had. And he laughed and sat down and just chuckled. And finally, they all of a sudden drinks started showing up at the table. I said, Russ, what are you doing? He says, hey, man, you need to get out there and go get us some more drinks. It's karaoke night. We're going to have fun. That was Russ. You know. But uncles have a special role. Not being our father, but they were a friend and a supporter in a different way than anyone else in our lives. They are both a relative and a companion. One of few people were able to be both. Whether they were crazy and weird, and you only see them on holidays or a fishing trip, or they were a mentor. The loss of an uncle is particularly hard. Their loss, however, is filled with years of happy memories that I've had, and the special connection that belongs to only uncles. And Russ, your stories and memories will forever be with me as you guide me to share with others. Some flowers were put up here by the family. And one of these cards, I don't know if anyone of you have noticed it. One of them, I wrote. I want to share it with you. And it took me a while to come up with it, but I did. But it speaks very loudly at the very end. It says, God saw you getting tired, and a cure was not to be. So he put his arms around you and whispered, come home to me. As we all will, we shall see him again.